Hello, everybody. Good afternoon, everyone. Yes, it's still Sunday, so you have to respond like it's Sunday. Welcome to Foxfire Ranch, everybody. I'm going to start off by telling you a little bit of history about this place. How many of y'all have been to Foxfire before? You've been here before? You know the deal? Okay, it looks like about half of y'all. How many of y'all have never been to Foxfire? This is your first time? Okay, good for you. Sabukwe, is this not your first time out here? Are you serious? Shame on you. Been knowing you 20 plus years. Shame on you. No, we're so happy to have y'all here. So I'll tell you a little bit of history about this place and a little story about how we got started. And then I'll talk about what we're going to be doing here today and over the next couple of events that we have out here. So in 1918, my grandfather, Annette Hollowell, filed his written intention to purchase this land. It's 80 acres. And in 1919, he did purchase this land. So I often think about what it meant to be a black man in North Mississippi in 1918, manifesting what it is that you want for your family, what it is that you want in your community, and what it means to be here over 100 years later as a gathering place for community. And so I like to think that we're walking in a purpose that he always intended for this place. He was my father's father. There's my dad here, Bill Hollowell. Dad, just raise your hand. You don't have to stand up. It's Bill Hollowell. At some point, bend his ear. He's always happy to hear a story or share something about this place. But he grew up out here. He was born on this land, and he lived here until about the age of 9 when his father passed away. Albert Hollowell had been married, had a family, had lost a son in the war, a wife to a pandemic. And by the time he met my grandmother, he was much older. He was in his 50s. My grandmother was young, fine, 20-something. And they started a new family here and lived happily for many years until his passing. They grew everything they needed here. They grew cotton, they grew sorghum, they grew all the vegetables. There were fruit orchards here. He was the country veterinarian. If you had a sick cow or something going on, he was the one to come see. He was also a woodworker, someone who worked in the sawmill making railroad ties. And my grandmother was the farmer. She was the real farmer. She knew what she was doing. She kept things running. And so after he passed away, the family remained out here for another couple of years until my grandmother remarried and moved into nearby Holly Springs and had a farm there, which is the land I most identified with. They were there for about 60 years. And I always knew that place when we would come home and visit and come see family in the summers and throughout the year. My dad had a long career in the military. Him and my mother, they moved us around a whole lot. But they always had the desire to come back home to Holly Springs. So in the early 90s, they bought out my aunts and uncles' shares of this land. It had remained in the family the whole time, but it had been feral for about 50 years at this point. So they bought out the shares of the land. And in 2000, my father retired. They came back here. I went to New Orleans to go to school. They came back here and slowly built a small cabin up there. Over a couple of years, built the family house, working with local family members and carpenters. And then fast forward to 2007, we were getting ready to host our family reunions on this land. And so we're from Mississippi. My mom, Big Mom, is in the kitchen there. Annie, hey, Mom. Say hi. She say, hey, if you guys eat something good, it's because her and my Aunt Connie put their fingers in it. So we were getting ready to host our family reunions, and my mother has 14 siblings. So that's, we have a family reunion that's 400 people easily on either side. And so we decided to build this pavilion that you're under. Again, my dad, working with local carpenters, family members, laid this concrete slab, erected this tin roof, and then we hosted our family reunions for both the Hollowell side and the Nunley side. And we got to the winter of 2007, and we were trying to figure out, well, now we have a little bit of infrastructure. We didn't have all the rest of this. We didn't have a full kitchen and all that kind of stuff. But we did have this space, and we wanted to figure out what to use it for. And my father had always had this vision of having a recreational farm, a place for children to come out of the city and connect with nature, connect with animals, and things like that. So we started talking about that, but then we also started remembering what was it like when they were growing up, living here in Marshall County, living here in Waterford, living in Holly Springs, and what would people do? How would people engage with land? And we thought about Sundays. And on Sundays, it would be that, people might go to church. You might come home, sit on the porch, play the blues. I always tell this the same way, so if y'all have been here before, you know my storytelling pattern. If you're my mom's people, you might go to church, go play baseball, come home, do some cussing, sit on the porch, play the blues. Or you might come out into the county, come out into the country, get to a juke joint, owned by people like Junior Kimbrough and Junior Cummings, folks like that. And here's some Hill Country Blues. And that's been a long-standing tradition in this area. By the time my parents had retired and we had started to build out this place, there had been a gap for about 10 or 15 years where you didn't have as many of those juke joints occurring because people had passed on, places had burned down, and so we started thinking about, well, what would it look like to start doing Sunday blues again? And we decided to have a dinner up at the family house. We invited about 25 people who were friends, blues musicians, historians, ethnomusicologists, fed them up at the house, came down here. It was cold, it was winter. We sat in a circle, and we talked about those memories of Sunday evening blues and juke joints out in the country. And instantly, everybody got it. An impromptu concert broke out. And for the first month and a half of Sundays that we were open, Grammy Award-winning Cedric Burnside, I have to say Grammy Award-winning now, first Hill Country Grammy that we've gotten, right? Cedric Burnside and his partner at the time, Lightning Malcolm, played for us every Sunday for a month and a half to get us off the ground. And because people who follow the blues trail come from all over the world, we had people from all over the world that came to this place to hear music. And that was 17 years ago. We've always been a place that has been anchored in our musical and artistic culture and our food ways. So my mom is a great country cook. We started by having these blues shows and selling people food, and that's been enough to anchor us for 17 years. We did that every Sunday from March to Thanksgiving for a decade. That's 10 years, every Sunday from March to Thanksgiving. And I finally convinced my parents to slow up a little bit because it's a lot. And so now we do our shows second and fourth Sundays because we've become a gathering place for community. We're a place in this region that's truly intergenerational and interracial. And we've gone on to host a lot of events for community. We host a lot of family reunions, a lot of weddings, a lot of quinceañeras. Increasingly, we host more retreats here for organizations, mostly organizations that are doing work that's focused on arts and culture and justice, which is really in alignment with our vision for how this land is a resource for community. And so I always like to tell this story about how we got here because it's been a long journey doing a little bit more each year, a little bit more at a time, a little bit more at a time. So with that disclaimer, pardon our progress. We're renovating our kitchen. It was almost 20 years old. It looks like a blank slate because it is right now. It's being recreated. So come back in a few weeks, it'll be done. Like there's additions and things that are happening. So pardon our progress, but we're so glad that you're here to be a part of this story with us.